Hello everybody, this is Noel from the TARDIS Zone and this is the TARDIS Zone Talks. So we got to talk about the Doctor Who fandom a little bit here. The Doctor Who fandom is in a little bit of a weird place right now. Obviously with the future of the show up in the air, no official announcement by the BBC press office or Disney on the future of Doctor Who on Disney, with the reports of BBC actively looking for another streaming service, Disney Plus being out, the show ending on the cliffhanger that it ended on. There's been a lot of speculation out there, and there's been a lot of fans, as we do in the Doctor Who fandom, give their opinions. And of course, I'm seeing this thing, and it's not just one particular person. I'm seeing it throughout the fandom. There seems to be a lot of people that seem to get a hump on their back when a Doctor Who fan offers an opinion on the current state of the show, or the reasons why the show could be possibly on hiatus, or speculating the reasons for that. I just seen, obviously last night, you seen the video I put up of Tom with the comments that he made in relation to Doctor Who, giving his opinion on what he thought could be the scenario here. And then obviously that's gotten a bit of a reaction from the other side of the fandom especially. And I just seen one comment from someone who I'm not going to mention, but they said what Tom is saying is very dangerous, and he should be a bit more careful, and it's silly to be coming out with stuff like this. I mean, the former editor of Doctor Who magazine is entitled to his opinion, just like those people that are wrong that give their opinions about the future of Doctor Who. They're entitled to do that. Right, whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. They're entitled to give their opinion. But there seems to be, some fans out there that are not facing the reality of the situation, right? And the reality of the situation is this: you supported a man in RTD who ran the show into the ground, who inserted his woke ideology into it and his personal opinions, right? In season 2, he decided that he wasn't happy enough with just pushing his ideology and his agendas. He wanted to go after certain members of the fandom, especially those who run big podcasts and stuff like that, and people that have been critical of Doctor Who over the last few years, and he inserted that nonsense in the show. Now, you guys all stood by, right, on the sidelines, and cheered like a bunch of fucking hapless seals while this man was destroying everything that made Doctor Who Doctor Who. And now yous are all wondering why Disney Plus could be out and why we haven't had an announcement on the future of Doctor Who. And yous are acting as if yous are oblivious and yous don't know the reasons why this has happened. Well, I'll explain it. The reasons why this happened is because, as I said, yous all stood by, like the good little people that yous are, wouldn't come out and criticise, right? Yous wouldn't come out and criticise the show when the writing was bad, or the character development was bad, or some of the plots that were non-existent or didn't go anywhere. You didn't call any of that out. What you decided to do was call out the fans that were criticising, right? And then you piled on when RTD piled on to some fans and told them to fuck off, right? That's what you did, right? What I believe has happened here is, since the Chris Chibnall era, at the end, the fact of the matter is that Doctor Who fans have lowered their standards, right? And some of you have outright sold out, right? It doesn't matter what crap is produced, right? Once it has the Doctor Who logo on it, you are happy with that. For others like myself, we want good stories, we want decent character development, we want the characters fleshed out, And you know, we want the stories to go somewhere and to make sense, and for it to be, you know, a science fiction show, what it should be, and not this, you know, fantasy, soapy drama, you know, crap that it's become, campy, gay crap that it's become, right? So yous all, for the last few years, under Chibs and under RTD2, have stood by and watched this show slowly decline. And instead of calling out those showrunners, yous all decided to focus on people that wouldn't get on board with this particular version of Doctor Who. You guys are just as responsible as Chris Chibnall and RTD. And, you know, I find it quite funny that yous are all in denial now, and some of yous are outright criticising others who are giving their opinions on what they think or believe the future holds for Doctor Who, I should say. Right? The bottom line is this, right? My opinion has changed on this over time, but I could say safely now for me that Doctor Who has to go off air for at least, you know, I believe it might go off for about 2 years, 2027, like the media reported. It could be a bit longer than that, but for me, you're looking at a 5-10 year gap. I think would be sufficient enough at this stage. There is no excitement for the show anymore. Even the British public have tuned out. And if the rumours are true about how bad it did on Disney Plus, well then it just goes to show that the international audience, yes, it did well in some territories, but not the territories that actually mean, and that's no disrespect to those other territories. You know, the bottom line is the American market, the Australian market, the British market, and the Canadian market when it comes to Doctor Who are very big markets and do well there, right? But they didn't do well in any of those markets. I think it did well in Puerto Rico or something like that. But that's the measure of the success of this show now, and it just shows how far this show has declined. So, you know, I'm sick of all the bitching from all of you fans out there, right? That, you know, are baffled that we don't have any news in relation to Doctor Who. Take a long hard look at yourselves in the mirror, because you guys are just as responsible, as I said, as the previous two showrunners on destroying this show, because you've let your standards drop, or you knew the standards were dropping, but you were so on board with the messages that the last two showrunners wanted to push in the show that you's all completely sold out, right? And that's what I believe most of yous did. You's completely sold out, and instead of coming out and criticising when you should have criticised, and that criticism is actually justified, right? Because the show is nowhere near the quality where it should be. And I can tell you one thing now, right? 100 million. Disney Plus gave 100 million to do 2 seasons and a spin-off. They should have been some of the best television that we had seen in a long time, but it wasn't, right? So why would Disney Plus waste more money on that shit show? Okay, so look, no point crying. The bottom line is that if you continue to be the little sellouts, this show is always going to fail. It's about time now that you all look at yourselves and realise that backing these people was the wrong thing, and that Doctor Who is the most important thing in you, that means something to you, right? Doctor Who, you all fell in love with Doctor Who because apparently you loved it was about a madman in a blue box saving planets. You all watched Doctor Who because the Doctor inspired you, no matter who you were, who you are, right? The show Doctor Who doesn't need to have all of the stuff that RTD is put in it to make the show relevant to you. You're a fan of the show because apparently you love the character, you love what the character stood for, and you loved the show as a whole because it showed a person that was travelling the universe through time and space, saving people, saving planets, getting into all sorts of mischief, right? But it's none of that anymore. And yous are all surprised that it's gone this way. So if yous are true fans of Doctor Who, which I don't believe yous are, by the way, but if yous are fans of Doctor Who, then yous need to do the right thing and demand that the standard is better, and demand that the show is respected, and demand that the characters and the legacy of the show and those people that have played the part before are respected. None of that has happened over the last few years, and that's a fact. And this is why the show has failed, and this is why the audience have tuned out, and this is why a lot of Doctor Who fans have turned their back on this iconic show. You want to get them all back? Then you go back to basics and you do right by the show and do right by these fans. Anyway guys, I'm just going to leave it there, but I just wanted to do this video because, you know, I've been seeing what's going on X and other social media platforms, and I'm actually kind of sick and tired of them moaning and crying over Doctor Who, and they're not understanding that they've played a role in the decline of this show, because rather than, you know, support the show and demand the best for the show, they didn't mind that the previous two showrunners injected the show with their ideology, their beliefs, and forgot about writing decent characters and writing good stories. Disney gave RTD one of the greatest chances of producing one of the greatest versions of Doctor Who ever, and he blew it. It might look good, but the substance, the core of it, was absolutely rubbish. And why would Disney waste any more money on this when RTD couldn't produce and gave us the same old, but injected with his beliefs, his ideology, and his absolute bull crap? Anyway, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and if you can support me, buy me a coffee campaign, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you for the next one. Have a good one, folks.